and welcome to Autocar Professional. I am Trainer Lidhu and I'm of course joined by Mr. Sunjay Kapur. So what a great time to be in the auto industry, right? When so much of transformation is happening both globally and we're positioning India as sort of like a global hub for manufacturing and sourcing. It obviously sounds very rosy and it's obviously possible, but what do you think would be your outlook when it comes to sourcing for India, from India for the world?
So I think, look, the fact is that the industry is disrupting, and I think there's a lot of opportunity coming with the disruption, not just in the component space, but the infrastructure around components. If you look at electrification, the infrastructure around EV, there's a battery space that's opened up. There is charging infrastructure space that's opened up. There's informatics, there's telematics, there's connectivity, there's ADAS, there's sensors. There's so much opportunity out there. I think the key is going to be investment in technology. Companies are going to have to invest in technology, whether they do it themselves or look at collaborations or license agreements. It's really up to them. But however, eventually it's going to have to be an investment in technology. That's the only way that we're going to be able to grow. There's going to be cycles, as in every industry there are cycles, and we're going to have to weather that storm. I feel that the Indian industry is robust enough, and you've seen that over the years. We saw that in the pandemic. We saw that through the financial crisis. We've become much more robust than we were back in 2008 through the financial crisis and for the pandemic. So I think it's a good time to be in the industry, right?
Sure. How is Sona Comstar preparing for this transition? What do you prepare for when we've seen a mix of technologies going forward? How do you prepare for the future?
So from our perspective, we're already supplying to electrification. We're supplying to electric vehicles. So we have a business that does sensors, and we look at that as a inroad into the ADAS, the autonomous driving space. So, we will continue to invest in technology because that's really where we see ourselves playing a big role. We're a technology company. We're not just an auto component company. We're a technology auto company. And we continue to go down there.
Sure. Exports is going to be like a big area going forward that's going to open up for India, and obviously because we're so heavily dependent on exports and we look at the global scenario. So when it comes to EVs, we see that there's a temporary demand blip at this point for certain sectors. Even in India, it's translating in certain industries like two-wheelers and three-wheelers. It's heavily dependent on regulation as it is for global players. So how do you look at this scenario? What would be your outlook for the industry? Have you recalibrated your plans?
So I think, two different questions. One is exports, and definitely as an industry, they've gone to 21 billion. We've grown 5.5%. We are slated to go to 100 billion by 2030. I think we will achieve that target as an industry. When you look at electrification and you look at blips and you talk about, it's cycles. Every industry has a cycle. Our industry has a cycle as well. And, cycles will come and go, and we need to ride that wave. And I think when a cycle comes, it's a good time to reassess maybe, in terms of building efficiencies in your business, putting up capacity for the future, because at the end of the day, cars are going to sell, vehicles are going to sell, and the industry is going to grow. So I think you need to look at it from a long-term perspective. I think looking at a short-term perspective is really not the right way to look at it from our industry. We're not a quarter-to-quarter industry. We're a long-term, business in terms of an industry. That's how we need to look at it.
Sure. Even if we look at 15% in electrification by 2030, the rest of it is still going to be ICE technologies, cleaner ICE technologies and other, combined technologies. How do you prepare for a future like that? Because there have to be like alternatives and everything has to coexist. That's the sense in the industry. But how do you as a player look at, are you technology agnostic at this point?
I think we need to look at technology as something, more seriously, because if you look at the average, it's 0.5 to 1% of investment. I think companies need to invest more in technology. As a company, we invest between 3.5 to 6% in technology, and therefore it puts us at a cutting edge or at an advantage. And we continue to look at it from that perspective. When companies look at electrification or alternate fuels, I think there's a lot of opportunity again, for companies to look at where they can play a role. And we'll continue in the industry. And I think everyone in the industry knows how disruptive it is. It's not a guessing game anymore. The industry is disruptive. I think electrification is here to stay. I think we do want to move to net carbon, net zero carbon footprint, and therefore I think we can look at it basically from that perspective.
Sure. If you could build on that, what is ailing the EV sector currently? Is it the regulatory push? Is the industry not geared enough So what would you say is ailing the
I
EV
think
sector?
what's happening in the EV sector is one is range anxiety is definitely a real problem or something that people worry about. And I think infrastructure will get built out. And once infrastructure gets built out, we absolutely fine. Lithium ion prices are going down. Let's see how that impacts, production and cost of EVs. So I think, these things will happen and eventually, again, it's a brand new, type of vehicle. It's a brand new technology, and new technologies take some time to create demand. Demand takes some time to create it when you look at a new technology. But again, we're going down the path of EV, and I think it's here to stay.
Sure. Lastly, I wanted to understand localization again is going to be a key pillar for the industry going forward. If you could specifically talk about Sona Comstar as well as the industry, since you've seen the industry grow to like double every year, and it's just crazy the amount of volumes that we're doing. So, if you could also look at it from an industry perspective as well as your company, how do you see localization taking like?
So I think, localization is something that we've talked a lot about, and there is a lot of effort and initiative in terms of localizing as much as we can. And I see that because we cannot localize everything. So this notion of 100% localization is not the right way to go. I think there will always be certain kind of imports, and we need to sort of live with that. However, whatever we can localize, and especially if we look at electronics, as we look at PCBs, if you look at semiconductor, again, these are key components that we need to look at localizing. And I think the industry is doing a great job. ACMA and SIAM are working together, to create a footprint in terms of where the industry can go in terms of localization. And as we go on, I think it's going to be key for us to continue to invest in that. But we shouldn't feel that we can localize everything. There will be certain.
It has to be a balance of both. Yeah, if you could leave us with like an outlook for the industry, how much penetration do you expect for EVs, say for 2030 is what we're talking about?
Look, I don't want to put numbers to this, but the fact is that electrification will grow. And as far as I'm concerned, again, I'll stress on the point that we must invest in technology. I will say something else, which I haven't said so far, is we cannot ignore China. I think China is an important player. It's a 20 billion market. We can't ignore that. As a whole, if you look at the Chinese manufacturers, even with tariffs, they will still make profit. They are going to penetrate the market in Europe, etc. So we need to look at how we manage that, and maybe we need to look at how we can supply to China. I think we need to look at it from an overall perspective, but I feel all things positive.
Any expectations from the government going forward in this?
I think the government's made sort of good provisions with regard to PLI scheme. They've even laid out a roadmap in terms of where they feel carbon emissions should go, etc. And I think we need to follow that.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. Great times for the industry going forward. Thank you.